Hello and welcome to Frankly Speaking, where we dive deep into regional headlines and speak with leading policymakers and business leaders. I am Katie Jensen. 16 months into the Gaza crisis, the situation remains as volatile as ever. Talks of relocating Palestinians, or the uncertainty over Gaza's future, having intensified concerns about the fate of Palestinian statehood. On this episode, we speak with His Excellency Riyad Mansour, Palestine's permanent observer to the UN, to discuss whether statehood is slipping further away, how the Palestinian leadership is responding to mounting pressure from key Arab states, and whether Palestinians themselves still see a future in Gaza. Your Excellency, thank you for joining us today on Frankly Speaking. Now, a lot has happened since you appeared on this show last October. Now, with recent talks about relocating Palestinians to Egypt and Jordan and taking control of Gaza, do you feel that a Palestinian state is now more remote than ever?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me again. And I don't believe that the state of Palestine is very remote possibility. I guess your inference is the independence of the state of Palestine after we collectively succeed in putting an end to this illegal occupation, as articulated by the International Court of Justice, to be terminated as quickly as possible, and the General Assembly said within 1 year. I believe that it looks complicated and difficult, but our belief that it will eventually happen is still a very strong belief.
But with all due respect, that feels like it's further away than ever. Mr. Mansour, tell me, how seriously do you take President Trump's statements? Now, many are labelling his recent statements as ethnic cleansing. Given his position, though, keeps shifting, do you believe it's sincere? Do you think it's a negotiation tactic? Is it just a show? Do you have any clarity on what the real end game is here?
Well, we take, his statements as being, very serious. We take him seriously. But we, of course, do not agree with any attempt to displace the Palestinian people, to commit ethnic cleansing. And we agree with those who characterize it as being ethnic cleansing when you push out more than 2 million Palestinians from the Gaza Strip outside that precious part of our homeland, out of it. We don't think that that is an easy thing for him, to impose on us and on the Arab nations and on almost the entire international community, because I have not seen a single country other than Israel that is supportive of this position, which is the culmination of this crime that has been committed against us through this genocidal war for more than 15 months in the Gaza Strip. And to culminate it is by kicking everyone outside of that state and allowing those who committed these crimes of destroying the Gaza Strip to get away with it. That is beyond any mind to comprehend in any part of this global international community. But we take him seriously, and we have continuous meetings, whether here in New York as the Council of Arab Ambassadors. We met with the President of the Security Council. We are meeting with the European Union countries and tomorrow, and we are continuing with our efforts collectively here. And then there are series of summits and ministerial meetings that will be unfolding in the Middle East, in Riyadh, in Cairo, in Jeddah, so that there will be a very strong, unified Arab and the Muslim country position to oppose this crime against humanity of expelling the Palestinian people from the Gaza Strip. And it is violation not only of international law and Security Council resolutions, including 2735, but it is also violation of the agreement that the Trump administration proud itself that it played a key role in reaching that agreement that was announced and came into effect on the 19th of January, one day before the inauguration of President Trump. So we will see how it goes, but we will continue working with everyone in order to make the ceasefire hold, to implement all the provisions and the stages of the ceasefire, and to begin the process of providing for our people in the Gaza Strip the basic necessities of life, to begin the clearing of the roads, fixing the schools, the hospitals, the clinics, and to try to provide shelters for them, then to be ready for the next stage of the reconstruction of the Gaza Strip. We are determined to rebuild the Gaza Strip because this is a significant part of the homeland of the Palestinian people and a significant component of the land of the State of Palestine.
And I think that is the big issue. How do we ensure that we can begin rebuilding Gaza without displacing the 2 million plus Palestinians who live there? But I want to pick up on what you were saying earlier. You're expecting an announcement from Arab governments within days of just how a post-war Gaza could look. So tell me a little bit more about that. We know Jordan's King Abdullah II has become the first Arab leader to meet President Trump in the White House during his second term. Now, during this meeting, the king declined to discuss the matter of moving Palestinians to Jordan, but he did say that Amman would take on 2,000 children with cancer or severe illness. Now, King Abdullah II also said that an Arab response would be made after consultations with Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman and President Sisi. So are you part of these discussions, and what can you reveal about them?
Well, first of all, the king put in his X account that the positions that he reaffirmed in the closed meeting with President Trump. He said that the kingdom is against the transfer of the Palestinians outside of the Gaza Strip, and he said that their position is very firm in order to see the ceasefire holding and the implementation of the agreement, and he wants to see a political horizon. And then he said that there is no solution except the two-state solution, and readiness of Jordan and the Arabs to work with the Trump administration for accomplishing these objectives. Egypt also issued a statement by the foreign ministry reiterating similar positions, that they will not accept the transfer of the Palestinian people from the Gaza Strip to Egypt. They have to stay in Egypt, and they're saying that they're working, I'm sure, with the Palestinian side and others in finalizing a plan for keeping the Palestinian people in the Gaza Strip, providing for them all the needs that they want, and adopting, I assume, with the plan of the government of the State of Palestine in providing all of the things that I mentioned in terms of cleaning the roads, having shelters for the people, temporary shelters, and dealing with fixing the hospitals, the schools, so that we can move into the following stage of the reconstruction of the Gaza Strip in collaboration with all the countries that are willing and ready to do so, and in collaboration also with the different agencies of the United Nations. And these are key components of the plan of Dr. Mohammed Mustafa, the Prime Minister of the State of Palestine, the recovery and the plan that he has for the reparation and humanitarian provisions and early recovery plan within 6 months before moving into the following stage of the reconstruction of the Gaza Strip, during the span of 3 years, and he put, the cost of each of these elements within this plan, which I suppose that it will be a key component of the plan that will be adopted by the Arab countries in the summits that I referred to, including the summit on the 27th of this month in Egypt. I believe that there will be a strong determination and unity from the Arab countries just to give what is needed at this stage for the Palestinian people to remain in the Gaza Strip, to see the beginning of a positive hope, to make sure that this agreement on ceasefire to become a permanent ceasefire, and to spread into stopping the aggression against us on the West Bank, and for the Israeli forces to withdraw from the northern part of the West Bank so that we can prepare the atmosphere for moving into the reconstruction of the Gaza Strip, so that there will be no need for people to leave any part of the Gaza Strip. This is our homeland, part of our homeland, and we love it, we attach to it, and we want to rebuild it.
Sure. Now, in terms of rebuilding, the United Nations has estimated the cost of rebuilding Gaza to be around $53 billion. Now, $20 billion of that is estimated to be needed in the first 3 years alone. Clearly, the work involved is huge. But tell me, how seriously then do you take President Trump's statements? Because despite all the rhetoric, the US technically doesn't have a legal claim to the territory. It's not entirely clear how President Trump actually intends to impose American rule. But going back to that meeting with King Abdullah II, President Trump also dodged a question about what exactly will happen to the West Bank. Do you fear that the West Bank will be annexed?
Well, of course, we have concerns, about what will come out from the mouth of the President of the United States of America. So we will take it into consideration. But let me go back to the plan of concerning Gaza. The plan of Dr. Mustafa put the figures that we need is in the first 6 months, $3.4 billion to repair the schools, the hospital, to clean the roads, to have temporary shelters, to try to begin the process of putting things together. Then after that, within a span of 3 years, there is a need for about $15 billion to begin the reconstruction of the Gaza Strip, which means that, we don't need to inflame the figures and as if, that we are going to do something that requires large amount of money so that people to say that it is not going to be possible. But these are the details of the plan that he gave. And then there is a document that we circulated to all members of the United Nations to that effect regarding, the beginning stage and then the 3 years stage, so that at least to begin the process of putting things together and people can begin to see the light at the end of the tunnel. And along with that, we need the political horizon. And then there is a very important benchmark in this regard, is the international conference in June, co-chaired by Saudi Arabia and France, to implement the two-state solution on the basis of what the General Assembly asked for. So there is a lot of things on the pipe, and we need really to see commitment from countries and international organizations to what they will bring to the table in a concrete way to contribute to ending this illegal occupation in a relatively short period of time. We are focusing on these things, not focusing on the noise to try to deter us or to distract us from what we need to do to serve our people, especially those in the Gaza Strip.
Okay, so you feel this is mainly noise from President Trump. This is mainly a negotiation tactic. The fact that he's talking about making Gaza the Riviera of the Middle East. But let me go back to my previous question. Do you fear the West Bank will be annexed in the midst of all of this? And what can you tell us about some of the summits that you were mentioning a moment ago? In terms of the Arab position, we're expecting a strong proposition and obviously a different solution than what President Trump has presented about relocating Palestinians to Jordan and Egypt. Is that what you're saying?
Well, first of all, you know that we are opposing, we and all the Arabs and almost all nations, with the exception of one, to not to allow this crime against humanity of forced transfer of the Palestinian people outside of the Gaza Strip. And by also the same token, we are opposing, along with almost everyone, to allow the annexation of any part of the West Bank. In fact, the International Court of Justice, because of many reasons, including annexations and illegal settlement enterprise in the West Bank and East Jerusalem, characterized that occupation as being illegal, and it has to be terminated as quickly as possible. And the General Assembly decided that that termination should take place in 1 year. Because of all these things, we are now in the midst of working together with Saudi Arabia, with France, and with a number of countries of the steps of preparations and commitments for this international conference that will take place in June in the General Assembly Hall at the United Nations here in New York. And there is a lot of work in this regard in terms of preparations, in terms of round tables, in terms of prep conferences, could be at the ministerial level, perhaps in Spain, perhaps in other capitals in Asia, in Latin America, in other countries, in Europe, so that we are dealing with lots of details so that we can make this conference a conference of the international community pledging in a concrete way practical steps that they will take in order to make the life of this illegal occupation very short, and therefore to allow for the two-state solution to become a reality.
Yes, but again, I think it's about taking those words and turning it into real action, because despite what you're saying about the international community rising up, frankly, don't you think that the international system has failed to halt Israel's attack in Gaza? 16 months in and 61,500 Palestinians are dead, many of whom are women and children. Another 14,000 are missing and presumed to be dead. And in the meantime, we see these very dismissive statements from President Trump or Prime Minister Netanyahu. Now, recently, Mr. Netanyahu spoke to Israel's Channel 14 television network just a few days ago, and he said the Saudis can create a Palestinian state in Saudi Arabia. They have a lot of land there. Now, there was a lot of anger. A lot of countries have come out in solidarity with both the kingdom and the Palestinians' right to remain. Tell me, do you think that Mr. Netanyahu is being deliberately intimidating? And how does your authority respond to these kinds of statements?
Well, first of all, you know, we stand completely with the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia in rejecting this hallucination by Prime Minister Netanyahu of trying, you know, to impose on Saudi Arabia to deal with the question of Palestine and the Palestinian people. The Palestinian people are not looking for other countries where to go. The Palestinian people have their own country and their own state. In specific, their own state land is the Gaza Strip, the occupied West Bank, and the occupied East Jerusalem. And then there are resolutions in the Security Council, including Resolution 2334, in which stipulates that the international community does not recognize any borders between the two states, between the State of Israel and the occupied territory, other than the 4th of June of 1967. And any adjustment to any of these borders has to be agreed to through negotiation between the two parties. So we know that international law is defending our rights. We know that international law is clarifying the details of these rights. Israel or anybody else cannot come and trample international law, which was created by the West, not by us, and to say that it is not applicable to the Palestinian people and to the Arabs. That is double standard, and it is being rejected by all of us. And the battle is going to be who is going to prevail in controlling the land in the Gaza Strip and the people. And that's why our plans, our unity as Arabs, and the strong messages that we'll be sending in the meetings in Riyadh, in the meetings in Cairo, in the meetings in Jeddah, summits and foreign ministers' meetings, we will be sending a crystal clear message that the rights of the Palestinian people should be fulfilled, including their right to self-determination, to statehood, and the right of the refugees to return, and the crime against humanity of forced transfer to kick the Palestinian people out of their homeland to create another Nakba is not going to be allowed. It is not going to be tolerated. Egypt is not going to build places for the Palestinians that will be expelled from the Gaza Strip. Nor Jordan, nor Saudi Arabia, not a single Arab country will do that.
Well, we saw a very strong response from Saudi Arabia. Less than 20 minutes after the Trump-Netanyahu conference, the kingdom issued a statement saying the kingdom affirms that the Palestinian people have a right to their land and they are not intruders or immigrants to it who can be expelled whenever the brutal Israeli occupation wishes. Were you surprised by how quick and blunt the Saudi language was there?
No, I was not surprised. We work very closely with our brothers in Saudi Arabia at all kind of levels. We are on the same page that the question of Palestine and the rights of the Palestinian people should be recognized, and then there will not be any of the ideas that were floating for the last few years without having the state of Palestine to become a reality, without implementing the Arab Peace Initiative, which was initiated by Saudi Arabia before they were adopted in the summit of the Arab countries in Beirut in the year 2002. We appreciate all these principled, very powerful and strong positions of Saudi Arabia, and we work with them very closely. And I believe all of the Arab countries are on the same page with Saudi Arabia in order, to push back against those who want, instead of giving the Palestinian people hope after this genocidal war during the last 15 months, 16 months in the Gaza Strip, are trying to finish the national aspirations of the Palestinian people. And we are all united and determined that that will not be the case. The case will be opening a political horizon.
Well, let me ask you, you mentioned the Palestinian people, and I think in all of this mayhem, perhaps the most important people to ask are the Palestinians themselves. Now, many Americans and Israelis believe that your people don't even want to stay in Gaza. They feel they would rather live somewhere else as long as there is peace. How do you respond to that?
Well, the answer was given by our people who marched in 2 days, in span of few hours, by marching from the south to the north in more than 450,000 people. They knew that they're going back to destroyed homes and properties, but loving the land and the place where you were born and where you have memories and you had dreams, it is so valuable to us. It is in our DNA as Palestinians. So therefore the answer came from those who marched on their feet, not even by vehicle, from the south to the north, old, young, all of them going back to these places. So that is the answer of those of our people whom some say that they have no choice but to leave. No, they have a choice. They are returning to the place that they cherish and love. This is the meaning of why do people fight for their national homelands? Why do they defend it with all of their might? Because they love it and they're attached to it and they want to be in it. That is so applicable to us, the Palestinian people. And for those who do not know us, this is a very important component of our being as Palestinians, of how much we love our homeland, how much we love our land and our country, whether it has palaces on it or whether it has destroyed homes. It is our land, and we don't have any other country except the country that we love, which is Palestine.
And there's been some very moving pictures of the hundreds of thousands of Palestinians who have been trying to move back to their homes in North Gaza recently. But let me ask you, Prime Minister Netanyahu is facing a corruption trial that could see him sentenced to up to 10 years in jail. Now, after huge delays, he has taken the stand for the first time just a few days ago. To many Israelis, though, they see him as an illegitimate leader who's been accused of multiple war crimes. How much do you agree with the notion that all of this mess is driven purely by his desire to survive?
We leave that, for the Israeli people to settle it. But at the global picture, He is also an international wanted criminal by the by the ICC, and there is a warrant for his arrest as a war criminal, and he has to face justice in that international criminal court. So that he is being wanted in the international court systems, and he is being dealt with to face the allegations of crimes inside the Israeli legal system, in addition to the hundreds of thousands who were demonstrating against him as being, committing all these crimes in Israel. So we leave the Israeli people to settle their issues with him in their system, and the international community will deal with him as a wanted international criminal in The Hague in the ICC.
On the other hand, I'm sure you know that many believe that none of this would have happened had Hamas not committed what it did on October the 7th, or if it had agreed to hand over the hostages much earlier. Surely you agree they are also to blame for the turmoil that we're seeing now?
Well, first of all, the history of the Palestine question did not start on October 7th. And regardless of what happened in October 7th, there is no justification whatsoever for the genocidal war committed against the Palestinian civilians, in which more than, perhaps it could be 60,000 or more, being killed, the great majority of them women and children, and also more than 150,000 being injured, and many children are orphans, in the vicinity of 20,000 people, and we have the highest number of children that have lost their limbs. These crimes cannot be justified for any reason whatsoever under international law, under morality, under humanity. So therefore, those who are trying to justify this massive amount of killing because of what happened on October 7, there is no justification what they did. And those criminals who have gave the order to commit these crimes against the Palestinian people, especially the children and women, should face justice, and they should receive the punishment that they deserve.
But even the Arab League Secretary General Ahmed Abu al-Gheit has said that if it is in the Palestinian interest, Hamas should step aside. He said that to Al Arabiya a few days ago. So I'm sure we can both agree Hamas has brought nothing but destruction to Palestinians. So again, should they not step aside?
Well, you see, we have a lot of issues to deal with internally in the Palestinian House. And I believe that we should be left to deal with these issues internally. I know that we have a lot of challenges in this regard, but once we succeed in putting an end to this war and to make the ceasefire permanent, there are a lot of things that we need to deal with internally. And I trust that the Palestinian people are capable of making the correct determination with regard to our experience, especially the experiences during the last 16, 17 months.
But when we look at the future and what comes next, America has indicated that it will take control of Gaza, then said it will not send troops. There's confusing messages on whether or not Israel intends to expand its territory. And let's be honest, the Palestinian Authority can barely keep control of its territory in the West Bank. Mr. Mansour, who or how will Gaza be governed on the day after?
Well, this is, first of all, that we have a legitimate government, and we have the recognition of the international community and the Arab official systems of the government of the State of Palestine and the PLO as the representative of the Palestinian people. Now, those who have these, this legitimacy, they have also the responsibility to shoulder their the responsibilities in terms of doing what need to be done in the Gaza Strip, since the Gaza Strip is part and parcel of the land of the State of Palestine, and the government of the State of Palestine is responsible for all of the duties of that government in all of the occupied territory, including the Gaza Strip. And I believe that the plan that was put before our brothers in Egypt, and we circulated it here at the United Nations, and it is a key component of what will be adopted in the Arab Summit Conference, is an indication that the legitimate government, which is acceptable by the international community, is the party that's supposed to be dealing with its full power in terms of its responsibilities in the Gaza
Yes,
Strip.
but I think the big question is whether the Palestinian Authority actually has the capacity to be able to take control and govern Gaza once a resolution is actually achieved. It's deeply unpopular in the occupied West Bank. But let me ask you one final question. We're almost out of time. There is a technical point which is being floated at the moment. This argues that even if the people of Gaza wanted to stay, that the Strip is simply uninhabitable. We're talking, again, about 50 million tonnes of debris there. So how would people actually live in the Gaza Strip while it is being rebuilt? How would that work on a very practical level?
Well, first of all, the answer is, how did we live for the last 16 months? Not only while ceasefire was in place, but we lived in the Gaza Strip while bombardment was on top of our head, while starvation was imposed on us, and we were able, to survive in tents. We were able to survive in the open skies, and we were able to survive while starvation was imposed on us, without medicine, without hospitals, without so many things. Now, if the ceasefire to continue, we are resilient people. We will be able to have areas in which we can clean and put tents and put caravans. And even, in these tents and caravans, we can reopen schools until we succeed in repairing the schools, the hospitals, the roads, and to begin the reconstructions where people can go back to their countries. We lived through the first Nakba and we prevailed, and we are the most educated people in the Middle East. We are living through this second Nakba in the Gaza Strip, and we are resilient, and our people, in spite of the heavy losses that we incurred, are still living in the Gaza Strip. We want them to live in a better way. We can find places, we can build a better, dwellings for people to live in on temporary basis. We can provide for them the humanitarian assistance that the international community and our Arab brothers were so generous to give us in order to sustain our lives. We have done it before. We know how to do it, and we are determined to do it. And by the way, our government is our government. Our internal issues, we will deal with them. And, people who characterize our government and all these things in a cynical way are not helpful to us to deal with the monumental internal issues in which we are going to face. And true friends would tell us, go and put your house in order, and we support you, we care for you, we love you, instead of being cynical and critical of what is really happening to us under unbelievable and so difficult conditions, and expect us to be perfect and to expect us to be angels.
Okay, we are out of time, but one final question. You spoke earlier about getting your house in order. As we know, we are expecting a statement from key Arab states very soon. That's set to take place after the meetings with Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman and President Sisi, as well as the King of Jordan. Now, you said earlier you were confident of a strong Arab response. So as someone who is involved behind the scenes, when can we expect the position to be announced, and what kind of plan do you think there will be that properly protects Palestinians' rights?
First of all, in a few days, there will be a summit composed of the key Arab countries in Riyadh. It was called for by the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia. We appreciate that. That is a very responsible position. Then, on the 27th of this month, there will be an Arab Summit conference in Egypt, in Cairo, and that will be attended by a large number of leaders. We are grateful for Egypt for taking that steps, and we expect that in the meeting in Riyadh and in the meeting in Cairo, the Arabs will stand tall with the Palestinian people, and they will not, those who want to destroy the national cause of the Palestinian people by expelling 2 million from the Gaza Strip to succeed. It is the collective duty of all of us to win this battle in the Gaza Strip by not allowing this crime of massive transfer of the people outside their homeland not to succeed. And the way to make it not to succeed by enabling the Palestinian people and their institutions to begin the process of taking hold of our lives in the Gaza Strip and providing us with everything that we need in order to survive in the Gaza Strip, to clean it, to have temporary shelters, to reopen our schools and our medical institutions, to have clean waters, to start having electricity and the basic necessity of life, because we are resilient people. We love to stay in our homeland, and we love to have a future for our children so that they can dream like all other children. And I believe that the Arab nations and the Arab countries will stand with us, and they will succeed in this battle for the survival of the Palestinian people and their national cause.
Well, it is certainly a very big uphill battle, particularly given the events of the last few days. Your Excellency, thank you very much for joining us on Frankly Speaking today. We do appreciate your time.
Thank you for having me.